How is it going, everybody? This is Sean Barnes. I want to welcome you to episode 52 of The Way of the Wolf. This is the 1 year marker, and because this is a special episode for me, I brought on a very special guest, and I'm going to talk through the why behind that. But before I do, let me read a few notes that I have about this gentleman. He is board certified as a certified sports chiropractic practitioner. Started his practice in 2009, focusing on athletic injuries and sports nutrition. Has done a number of public speaking events over the years around sports injuries, sports physiology and endocrinology, leadership, goal setting, and overall health and wellness. He is an expert in his field and just a genuine good-hearted person.
Well,
Dr. Chase
Sean.
Banks,
Thank
welcome
you.
to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on today.
All right, so I have to expand a little bit on my opening comments. There are people that come into our lives, and maybe we don't spend a tremendous or a significant amount of time with those individuals, but they have a profound impact and change the course of our lives. You and I met about 11 years ago, if I remember correctly. It was around 09 or 2010, something like somewhere in that range. And I came to you, I think actually it might have been for lower back pain or something like that. And then I learned about the nutrition plans that you do, or did, and still do. And decided, okay, I'm gonna try my hand and see if I can gain a little bit of weight. Always been a small guy by nature. I thought I knew about nutrition, but I had no clue. I was kind of this small, little emaciated guy, worked out all the time, did CrossFit, but I was just like beanpole rail skinny. You and I, we probably spent, I think, 5 months doing a meal plan and went through a bulking phase and then a cutting phase. I learned so much about nutrition, and that has just stuck with me ever since. And it's completely changed my perspective on nutrition.
And I'll say one thing, out of doing this as long as I have now, there's, regardless of who you are as a person, could you help me out with so much more than just, you know, what we do at the office and things like that when it comes to like IT and all of our you know, technical stuff that we do on the side. But when it comes to like consistency, you are by far the poster child of consistency when it comes to nutrition. You bought into it really, really early on, but it's almost like you saw some of the progress, you saw some of the actual reasoning behind what I was showing you, and you took it and ran with it. And again, even when you come in and help me out in the office, you always have your meals prepped. You always have some type of utensil ready to go. It's not like you're looking for, hey, does so-and-so have like, you know, some plastic forks or knives hanging around? You always have with you. So that kind of thing is like the consistency. I just want you to know I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I've got a new intern that's in the office right now today, and this was her first day, and she said, you know, really, what is the compliance that you see? And I said, for the most part, we see about a 70-80% compliance with patients. And she goes, that's because she's just gotten out of her rounds with one of the major hospital sectors here in Houston. And so her as a dietitian, she's not seeing that, you know, that effort in the traditional realm of nutrition when it comes to inpatient care at a hospital. So again, when I was talking to her today about, you know, what I was going to go do for lunch, and I was telling her about you, I was just kind of, again, reiterating the consistency there. So.
Yeah, and here's the thing that most people don't realize, or I don't think, that it has to be an absolute lifestyle change. It can't be a diet. I'm going to do this for 3 months and lose this weight, and then it's just going to stick with me. You have to change your entire approach to nutrition and eating. And yes, you can splurge, you can have your cheat meals from time to time, but you have to shift that perspective and change your entire lifestyle for it to be long term. That's
right. And you know, just taking someone's mind away from, like you say, cheat meals is a perfect example. Some people can look at that like you can. You can definitely look at those foods and you know, okay, how your body's going to respond because you've been doing this long enough. If I eat this or I eat that, I'm either going to be a reward from that, from a standpoint of I'm going to have more energy from it, or it's going to cause me to have more water retention, cause me more bloating. I'm probably not going to perform that well in the gym tomorrow. But there's some things that you can eat that are going to be a lot more calorically dense that will. And so by changing that mindset, what I tell some patients is like, quit looking them as a cheat meal. We don't cheat on anything in life. If you can look at foods that typically, let's say if we make a plan and we work towards it together, and obviously certain foods aren't on there, well, it's okay to have them. What do we do before or after those meals or the coming week to use that additional caloric consumption as a benefit to our energy levels. And it's not, hey, eat bad, outrun it, because that's not going to happen. But maybe make plans to where you're going to do something socially and you're going to have a few more calories than you normally would. And then what does your next couple of days look like as far as training because of that? Use it for the benefit. So if you're trying to eat a little bit lower carbohydrate, pick a workout that's a little bit more fast paced, maybe a little bit more what we'd call from a physiology standpoint glycolytic. So that means you're going to be doing something with a lot higher heart rate, and use it for the benefit.
Yeah.
So,
okay. I do want to dive in more into that topic. But before we do, can you share with the guests a little bit about who Chase Banks is?
Okay. This is the hard part for me. As a person, I have first and foremost, I'm a very blessed gentleman because I have 4 beautiful young daughters, an awesome wife that is my best friend, great communication, great marriage. I've got a business and a team that works around us at Finish First that we're able to do and achieve things that a lot of people have tried and have not worked out. And I think it's solely because we have a set of core values with everybody that works with us, and that we do whatever it takes to make the health advocacy component of our education with our patients like first and foremost. And so, but back to myself, I really, when it comes to business decisions, family life decisions, everything that I put on my plate every single day, it comes down to a set of standards that I've lived with for a really long time, a set of core values that I hinge every single thought, every single action, every single pretty much phrase that might come out of my mouth is like, does it line up with those? And after you practice those core values, it becomes second nature, and it just becomes a part of who you are. It becomes a part of your character, and it makes it very easy to make the right decision in the tough times. And I've had to do that a lot, especially in business, in family life decisions, and it's not always the easy thing. And in the midst of turmoil or chaos, when you have to do that, but you don't forego or don't give up on your value, man, the things that you can't see that are down the road and the doors that will open because of you sticking to your value system and your principles, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Good or bad, because the point is that, it's basically like leaving it out on the field, right? You don't sandbag anything.
Yeah.
And when it comes to business life decisions, that's the most important thing. So I think as a person, if I can teach anything to anybody or instill, like again, while we're here today, is hopefully people can kind of see that through me and how they meet me and come in interaction with, or if they're doing a consult with us, that they can see that value. And maybe it just helps them be a little bit more thought-provoking, not to necessarily make them a better person, but just a better version of themselves.
I love that. And that's really the intent behind this show, is to help people become the best version of themselves. Can you give us a quick rundown of the types of services that you guys do at Finish First?
Well, we provide a wide variety. I mean, used to, like when you first started come and see us, it was a one-man show, didn't have a queen bee at the front office like I do with
a
Melanie.
tiny little closet in the back of a gym.
Yeah, when I think back when we started, I mean, when I say it was a closet, it was legit a closet. If it was $500 for the month for my rent, and I could barely get a folding chiropractic table in there and a Swiss ball, and that was it. Yep. And but the point is that now we have a team. There's 3 of us full-time chiropractors. We have different specialties for all of us. Mine with a little more sports injury basis and things like that, and the others have a plethora of different modalities that we offer. We have another dietitian on staff. We do a comprehensive amounts of blood work and copious amounts, everything from genetic testing to regular serum testing, hormone testing, looking at inflammatory issues. We treat a whole lot of autoimmune patients. We have other staff on the team that does corrective exercise, functional movement type work, more management of what I would say corrective exercise. Then we have also a newbie provider, which is NewFit. You're probably familiar with that. I know they do that a lot at Legends. So that's been a huge benefit to us. And we treat the newbie less on the training side and more on the muscle activation, neurologically re-educating musculature. Because we have a lot of what we call upper motor neuron patients, and these are patients that have a lot of neurological deficits because of either trauma that they've had, accidents, sometimes it's genetic disorders, whatever it may be. And then, we do infrared sauna. We have obviously all the assessments we do with our nutrition for body composition analysis, aerobic capacity, and the list just goes on and on. So basically, going back to the intern that I have in the office today, she was asking about all the services, and I was just going through it. She's like, where does it end? I said, well, it really doesn't. And this is the reason why. It's not that I'm trying to do a million different things and excel at a million different things, but when it comes to yourself, when you come in the office, your goals and your action steps to those goals are going to be dependent upon your current lifestyle, your genetics, your past medical history, your current life measures. So what's going on at home? What's going on at work, right? What's going on with kids? Those type of things take a precedence over just maybe I develop a program and everybody goes through Chase Banks' program. Versus if I make the program about you and we look at everything like you say, okay, we have a goal to be this, but we're over here and there's all these action steps in between, but your lifestyle right now is not going to be successful if we start dumping all these things in. So maybe we look at doing and making some changes here first to kind of move the needle a little bit before we can get you further across the finish line.
Yeah.
And that can take some time.
Yeah. So highly specialized approach for each of your clients.
Yeah. It's basically, if people ask, it's pure and simple health advocacy. Mm-hmm. All we're doing is being a coach for someone's best way for them to reach the best them, or which I would consider homeostasis for them. And that can be challenging in a lot of ways because it is not repeatable.
Yeah.
And therefore it's not repeatable from one patient to the next. It's not replicatable. And a lot of business is built on replication. That's how you get to
that's how you scale.
That's how you scale, right. And that's the biggest hurdle that we've had as a business is being able to do that.
Yeah.
So,
well, I can see that being challenging, but also the value proposition of what you guys do is substantial. And so maybe you don't scale the business to where you've got 100 employees or 200 employees, but if you fill this niche market and you have long-standing customers that come to you and you're that trusted partner for them and all of their health and wellness needs, for me, that's the approach I like to take with business. I want to have long-standing relationships where there's a tremendous amount of value. Right. And if I don't scale to 300 employees, I don't really care because it's all about how I can positively impact the lives. And I think that's the same approach with you.
Well, and and it's like when you help us out with anything that has to do with, our websites, our, networking, our, uploading and downloading of anything that we do as far as anything that's technology based, because as you know, I'm terrible with it. I screw up more than I can help.
He's so bad.
So the point is that I never have to worry about it when I call on you.
Yeah.
I never have to worry about the organization of it. I never have to second guess, is it done the right way? Because just like this place and just like this that you've done over this last year, out the gate, you're doing it the right way. It's not piecemeal. You're not doing it in a closet. You're not, you're really putting, something together that's pretty awesome. And of course, that's just you and your nature.
I appreciate that.
And so, and it comes across that way in your work as well. And I know, obviously, outside of just you owning your own business, what you've done for other businesses too. And that's the reason why you've been able to climb like you have. So, but that's one big thing. Being in business, as you know too, is that when you start working with other businesses, it absolutely floors you to imagine, like, how can so-and-so be successful when they are doing these things, or they either, have just either poor communication skills or just poor follow through. But it just seems like you just watch their business and they just keep hammering away at it.
You know, it's interesting. Tarver and I were having a similar conversation about people that he interfaces with, especially on the construction side of things. He's like, my God, how on earth? These people have more business than they know what to do with, and they are a train wreck. So it's pretty interesting whenever you think about the market out there and how much, I'm going to say, work is available for people. So as you're thinking about adding additional services that you guys offer, what is your approach whenever maybe you have a new chiropractor come in? Because, what is the needles?
So dry needling?
The dry needling. Okay, so before you started doing that, now that's just something that one of your chiropractors does, right?
Now we have a new one we hired that just graduated. Her name is Emily.
Okay.
Dr. Sheets is... she was actually valedictorian of her class. She's a heck of an athlete of herself and really understands the overall, body biomechanics that we kind of achieve at the office too. But she's also acupuncture certified.
Okay. And so whenever you're interviewing a new person to come onto your team and they offer those types of services, what goes through your mind and how do you kind of validate, yes, this is a tool that we want to add to our tool belt. This is something that we want to offer as a service for our patients?
So like when we brought Emily on, we needed, we were transitioning away from another chiropractor that moved closer to home, to be closer to family. And so we needed to fill that spot. So I needed a female. And it's important because we do so much sports. I have some parents that just don't want me or Isaac in areas of the body that are going to be for their young teenage daughter. And I totally understand that, coming with a dad with 4 daughters. But the point was Emily was an awesome fit for us, but for her, knowing that she had this acupuncture piece, because Isaac just had the dry needling piece, which is just really a certification that you can get. Acupuncture is another 200 credit hours, a whole nother board certification. And so she had taken a little bit more into the study of the science behind acupuncture, which is a whole different profession in itself. But the point is like you asked, going to what services we provide. When she came on, she also, she's like, look, I see here that everything that everybody does, but it is face-to-face, service to service. There's not anything that is like short, effective. Everything else takes time, and you're only going to have so much time. And that's another thing we don't, we can only see so many people a day. We're not a typical chiropractic office that sees, each provider 50, 60, 150 a day. But because it just takes too much time for what we do. But the point is that she recommended, and this is her idea, and I think that it's going to be good for us, is shockwave therapy. We brought that. It's a new. We haven't really launched to tell people that we have it and we're doing it, but we researched specific units and specific technology within that units. And what shockwave therapy is think of a lithotripsy. So when people go and get kidney stones, they have to go to the hospital and they hit them with lithotripsy. And what it does is it breaks apart that calcium oxalate stone so it can get smaller so they can pass it, or it gets resorbed in the body. So they get hit with these waves, these impulses. And it's kind of a very uncontrolled environment. That's why it has to be done in the hospital. So think of this as like lithotripsy's little brother. So we can actually take, because we do a lot of soft tissue modalities in the office, a lot of soft tissue injuries. So whether it's let's say a tendinopathy, a tendinitis, tendinosis, a small tear, maybe some cartilage bruising, whatever it might be, all of that has to be reworked and molded as you're going through the rehab, increasing blood flow, reducing restrictions, increasing range of motion. So what this does is like a little gun. And so it's like a barrel just like this, and inside of it's a little bullet. And then pneumatically, it drives a force into the tip, which is different metals of different wavelengths. And they can get to different depths of penetration. So we can actually drive that wavelength, roughly 3.5, 4 inches into the body. And so like where needles, we can get surface level, where our fingers pretty much, surface level. I can get down into a joint like a labrum. And I can manipulate that labrum with this. It only takes like 2 or 3 minutes. So
wow,
pretty effective.
Okay.
So it's like that. So looking at something that already supports what we do as a office, same thing like when I'm looking to bring on someone or a service, what is already supporting our model, right? Something that wouldn't support our model In a sense, it would. Is I could easily bring on a nurse practitioner. I could bring on a PA or even a full-on medical provider. And the reason why I don't is because I have some really good referrals that do a really good job already out there in the market. And back to the principal piece is that they're not only good business referral portions and they take care of our patients, also become really good friends. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to bring that on to just to kind of have everything under the one roof.
Yeah.
So, but as far as like shockwave therapy and like we bring on acupuncture, like when we did Newbie or NewFit, which is the electronic stimulation that we do for neural reeducation, all of that helped make our patients heal faster, mm-hmm. help them get stronger quicker. And that part of the deciding factor of the therapies that we do is based upon that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I love that. So let's talk a little bit more about the business side of what you do. Obviously, everything that you offer is about health and wellness and helping your patients feel better and become the best versions of themselves. Whenever it comes to building the business itself, what was one of the biggest challenges that you've had over the years?
Definitely the biggest challenges is, like you say, is growing in a way that, like I say, growing in the right way. Mm-hmm. I could have made a lot of business decisions that would have impacted my personal integrity easily, very, very easily, and would have made a whole lot more money at this point in my life and probably multiple practices and things like that. But as, again, unwillingness to basically infringe upon that has grown slower. But my time spent at home, my ability to sleep at night, what I see in the mirror every day teaches me persistence, and that's helped a bunch. But I'd say the biggest limiting factor of growth has been the right personnel, and we've had some really great ones. Unfortunately, some, it's just things happen, and it's just part of it. But over time, it's like when we hired Isaac on, it was kind of a God thing, just like it was Emily and stuff like that, is that I interviewed, I think, 14 chiropractors, didn't ask for a single one of them to come back for a second interview, and certainly none of them for a working interview. But, like, again, go back to value. I mean, he was brought up as a mission kid in Haiti. And I knew for a fact, it's like, okay, where his heart was, obviously, because he'd been there all the way through high school, I think middle school and high school. But things like that, where I kind of see how a person is, like Emily, that's with us now. I mean, I didn't seek her. We were in the transition of knowing exactly that Angela was going to be leaving, mm-hmm. and I needed that spot filled. But I really wasn't looking for someone just yet, because it was at least 6 months out. And I'm working extra one day, and office is closed, and all of a sudden Alicia's working out in the gym, and then she taps on my door. I'm just listening to music. She says, "Hey, somebody's here, wants to speak to you." And so here this girl comes walking down the hallway in scrubs. She's like, "Hey, I don't want to be a patient, I just want to work here." And I'm like, you just walk in, you don't make a phone call, no email. But I'm like, that takes grit. Mm-hmm. So I sat down, listened to her, and she was still in school at the time, and so we set up everything that she needed to do for her internship, and I got to see, what she was about and all that kind of stuff. And she lined up with us. And so I hired her. So
I love that. And, one of the things that I see in business, so much of it just comes down to the people, mm-hmm. the right people and the ability to lead the people. Because right. even if you can have a company full of the quote, right people, mm-hmm. but if there's no leader, right. then the business is going to struggle. Right. You've got to have someone that has that vision and mission and can set the team on the right path. And I think you talk about leadership a little bit, and you've kind of, obviously the leader of Finish First and Integra, which we'll talk about in a moment. But when you talk about leadership at some of the events that you go to, what are some of the big areas that you like to stress?
I would say it's definitely recognizing, if you don't know what they are, is start to basically do some type of self-intellect study on your own core values. Know what it looks like to make a tangible decision or action that looks like that value. and start looking at your own life and say, okay, where am I acting on that? Okay. Or where am I not acting on that? Because obviously if it's important to me, because when it comes to values, especially core values, they're things that you can take all my money away, unfortunately take my family away. If I'm still alive here on earth, I still have that set of value. You cannot take that away from me. And I can start all over.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in business, is that it's like when COVID came.
Yeah.
And for the first 2 months, I was there every day hoping patients would come, not knowing what this virus was and stuff. But we didn't see anybody for almost 2 months, you know, and we were allowed to be open and stuff. But the frustrating part about it is just watching the bank account just continue to get dwindled. And I was at peace with the fact that Finish First was going to close. And that I was still paying everybody the same, wanted to make sure that we could keep them on. And that's why I was really kind of getting drained. But the point was that I was okay with it going away because I did everything I could the right way. It's not like anything that I was going against myself. So, but yeah.
I love that. The fact that you were at peace with it. I mean, obviously it says a lot about who you are, but I think over the years I've come to realize that if I were to lose my full-time job or lose any of the other stuff that I'm doing, that I'm okay with it because it's just money. And I'm just going to keep following my passion and doing what I love and trying to help people out.
Right.
And I think we need more people like that.
We do, especially in small business. I mean, I feel very fortunate to live in a part of the U.S. that really respects small business, and that definitely the community does. I couldn't imagine living in other parts of this country where it's just not thought about. And but the point is that in small business it does, because it's really what makes this country go around. And if we had more people that felt that way, that hey, I'm gonna be true to who I am as a person in everything that I do. And I'm going to venture out and become an entrepreneur, and because it's something I have passion in. And if you start to mirror and marry those two together, you're going to have success. It just may not be the success that the world sees or what you might judge the world as being, but you will have personal success.
Agreed.
And yeah, that's the hard thing, is that some people use that measure of let's say finances, right? Or things that they own or properties they have as that success. And you could be hurting on the inside and have all those things times 10. But yeah, so.
And I've kind of spoken about this on the show before, but early on in my career, it was always about setting those goals, and I wanted to hit that salary threshold. I wanted that VP title. And it's been really over the past, probably in my mid-30s is whenever that mindset started to shift and change away from inwardly focused goals that really just kind of fed my ego.
Right.
And I came to realize that it just, those things, the cars that I would buy and just all of that stuff, it's not really that fulfilling. It's kind of exciting in the moment, but it just, once I discovered and started having the opportunity to lead human resources and learn about leadership development and started to realize the value in helping others feel better or achieve the things that they want to achieve, like it flipped my world upside down. Yeah. And that has become my focus. That's why we have this show. And I always talk, I was actually having coffee with a gentleman this morning who has podcasts, and we were talking about monetizing the show. I have zero desire to do that because this is all just about helping people.
Right.
So I'm never going to end up monetizing the show.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's talk a little bit about Integer Wellness. So what is that?
So I've helped, I don't know, maybe a dozen or so companies. These are nutrition supplement companies, get off the ground since I've been in practice. What I mean by that is I've helped them with formulas. And usually there were formulas that, hey, if I had the money, I would do this. If we wanted a product that was a pre-workout, post-workout, wanted for recovery, wanted for this or that, inflammation, you name it, I would develop formulas for them. Well, going back to just helping people, I've never did non-disclosure agreements and all this, like, some type of intellectual property on any of it. I just did it hoping that those individuals would just see me through and help me out in the back end, and never earned $1 for any of those. And some of those companies are still around, and it's misfortunate, but I learned that over time, again, is if I was to have the resources to be able to do it, I would. And what I found was that, when the CBD market in the hemp industry kind of got started in America, really when the prohibition got lifted several years ago, I saw not the potential to make money in it. I saw the power in what, if you grow the right plant with the right kind of strain, what it can do for the body. And so I took really a couple of years of savings, and I bought into a partnership in a farm in California, and picked out some seeds and found a really good farmer and a grower. Actually, the farmer was a good friend of mine, somebody I could trust, and that's an industry you need to trust people. And we grew a pretty substantial crop and used some of those funds from that to develop Integra Wellness, which is the supplement line that I've developed. And we sell it primarily at the office. I have a couple other clinics that sell it as well. It is a clinical-based product. It is not something that I put on the store shelves at like a Vitamin Shop or a GNC or anything like that. It has to be managed and really kind of watched over. The reason why is because the dosages of them are at therapeutic ranges. And that's what a lot of people don't realize in sports supplements in America. This is probably something, we'll bring Tarver back on the show with, because he knows it too so well, is that there's a whole lot of garbage that just goes onto the outside of a bottle and a little bit of fluff on the inside. And you got to think, if you've got 100 people that buy it, 30% of them are going to think it's the greatest thing in the world because of the sugar pill, right? Mm-hmm. And those 30% are going to continue to buy it. And if you've got a cheap enough product with a good enough of marketing on it, you're going to continue to make money. And unfortunately, in our supplement, industry in America, there's a lot of that. And I learned a lot of that because I used to work for a big sports supplement company, and when they were public, or when they were private, did things the right way. When they went public, I saw the shift. And so that's kind of what I educate patients on now, is like when some of these supplement companies get bought out by a pharmaceutical company, by a med device company, by big food like Kraft or whoever it might be, just watch, because after a couple of years, they start changing a few things.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. I've seen a number of companies that go from private to public.
Right, especially in your industry.
Usually within a couple of years, you can't even recognize the organization anymore, because instead of focusing on the people and the customers, the focus shifts over to making sure you hit your next quarter's financial targets. Whatever it takes to hit that target, And the thing that, I've never run a big, massive publicly traded corporation, but in my mind, I have to think that if you take care of the people and the customers, the money will take care of itself.
Yeah. It's like you and I are talking about now. I've heard Warren Buffett say the same things over and over again, but I think to myself, I was like, you say those things, but I know a lot of the companies that you acquire and a lot of things that his massive conglomerate does, none of that lines up. Yeah. So you're right. It does come down. So going back to the decision to make it, that's first and foremost. And again, hence the reason why it's Integra, is that it's called Integra Wellness, is that I wanted integrity to be in its name. And I centered everything around that wholeness of it, because all the ingredients I've sourced, not only that I researched them and the actual dosing that we put them in. They're products that aren't on the market, so they serve a purpose that I, as a physician, was looking to actually have, instead of actually having a patient, hey, you buy these 4 things, to try to help the overall immune system maybe respond to some type of external inflammation. Well, we can do it with this one product. And I do enough genetic testing to see what variances in genes people have problems with, especially when it comes to clearing inflammatory response or recognizing inflammation from the immune self. And so that's how I built some of those products. And so it's been fun. It definitely, again, I never intended it to be something that I build up, grow super fast, and sell. I just wanted it to be an effective product to where it's repeatable for when people buy it. Mm-hmm. They get the response, they get their blood work changes, they see the benefit of purchasing that. Yeah. And that's why we built it.
So definitely, I think I want to have a show with just you and Tarver both come on, because I mentioned to Chris a few weeks ago that for 2022, I would like to launch a pre-workout and a post-workout supplement. And I've had a few conversations with friends and people at the gym and stuff like that. And they're like, man, that is a cutthroat industry. And for me, I don't really care. It's not about making money. It's so there's one that comes to mind that I've used for a long time. They don't make it anymore. Body Octane from Man Sports. I loved that pre-workout. No caffeine in it, so I could take it actually later in the evening and still go to sleep at night. So anyways, not available anymore. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I can just take that formulation, make something close to it. And at the end of the day, like it's not really even about making money as much as, one, having something for myself, and then two, if it can help someone else, here you go, buy some of it. And again, it just falls back to helping people. And so I'm going to have a show where both of you guys come on and we just kind of bounce ideas and talk through that.
Because there's some definitely, I can't tell you how many people have told me, it's like, Chase, you need to make a healthy energy drink. I'm like, well, the problem is I make it that healthy is really what I would see as an energy drink. Nobody buy it because of what it tastes. But the point is that, from a pre-workout standpoint, there's a lot of things that I have an idea on. Like our next product that we're doing is a soft tissue trauma, like somebody has maybe some tendonitis, tendinosis, frayed tendons, even soft tissue trauma from like a bruise or somebody who has surgery. So like plastic surgery, obviously, and people don't realize is the importance of nutrition after those surgeries and why it's so big and critical to create a framework of collagen and things like that. And so that's going to be our next product that we'll have for Integra. I have a pain cream that actually gets finished in the next week. So
okay, all right.
So
very nice. Okay, so when somebody comes to you off the street and they sit down and maybe they don't have anything specific that's bothering them, but just want to start living a healthier lifestyle, what are some of, let's just say, top 3 things that you would recommend somebody on the street, maybe they go to the gym a couple of times a week, something like that just want to live a healthier lifestyle? What are your top 3 recommendations for that person?
Well, first and foremost, we have to look at, obviously, what's their alcohol consumption like? Because that being is if I don't bring that up and people aren't legitimately honest with it, I have to educate them the importance of what that does. And it doesn't mean you can't drink. It just means daily consumption of more than really, a beer or 2, more than a couple of glasses of wine, more than 2 or 3 ounces of
daily
hardly. Yeah. You'd be surprised. I have a lot of people that have no concept of how much they drink, and they have big C-level positions, and they function just fine. I have physicians. You would be astonished at the culture of what is deemed normal, and it's perfectly fine until it becomes a health hazard, right? It's perfectly fine until it becomes a personality altering, vice, is what I'm saying. And so bringing that up into the forefront to talk to them, because I have a lot of people that consume as much liquid calories as they do solid foods.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we have to look at that and say, okay, we're going to have to reduce some of this, and because these are all empty calories. We're not doing anything with them right now. So then I go and talk about the effects of the liver, and obviously what the liver does for fat metabolism and protein synthesis and how much the alcohol impairs all that. So we look at that first, and let's say if that's not an issue, well, it's going to move to the next thing. If they're not drinking alcohol, I'm sure their body is going to want sugar from somewhere else. Because typically what I'll see if somebody drinks excessive amount of alcohol, they're not munching on candy. They're not eating a whole lot of chocolate. Their body gets its fix from sugar from alcohol, because that's what it is. So then we go to the sugar conversation, and if we start seeing areas where they've got a lot of refined sugars or added sugars, we start working and addressing those, because all of that we're trying to do is reduce inflammation. And that's not just what people think of as inflammation. Hey, I sprained my ankle and it's swollen. No. You can have intracellular inflammation that slows down all the metabolic processes, all the DNA transcribing, and everything that's basically that makes a cell move forward with intracellular inflammation. And so we work on those few things first. Obviously, hydration is critical. We are a very subhydrated, country. A lot of countries don't drink as much water as we do, but then they don't live as inflammatory as we do. So getting rid of metabolic waste, you need fluids to do that. So, and then movement. So some type of daily movement. whether it's walking. And I really promote, like, if you're a very sedentary individual, getting to a goal of 10,000 steps, I typically never see people gain weight if they're moving at least 10,000 steps a day. They may maintain their weight, but they're typically not gaining. Now, I'll watch people lose weight with just walking alone when they start getting 14 to 16,000 steps. But if you're checking yourself with your Apple Watch, whatever, and you're only getting like 5,000 or 6,000 steps, you're not moving enough. So then we can work in, okay, depending on what the framework of the body is, if they can handle resistance loaded activity, that's great. That's what I push most people to get to. And it doesn't mean all the way doing CrossFit or some really heavy, metabolic conditioning or bodybuilding-esque type workout. But resistance could be just mean Pilates, could mean some type of different varying style of yoga, something more putting their body in a position that's more tensile loading than just standing or sitting. And start working towards those things and trying to build some consistency in all three of those areas. And then if they're like, okay, they're ready to go to the next step, which is, maybe macro counting or what we can use apps for. And one of our staff members, she's producing a macro book right now that I'm going to be forwarding out. So it'll help a lot of people in the lay community that doesn't understand what macronutrients are to basically apply those and make it work for them. Or just if they're ready to start an actual, like you've done with me many times, which is more of an itemized, customized plan, so.
Yeah. For me, I learned a lot about nutrition, but my big takeaway was how certain foods affect my body in different ways. And I learned that and I've just carried it with me over the years, and I'm much more attuned or in tune with my body and how it responds to different types of foods. I can know, hey, so I have a problem when I have one cookie, I end up eating 2 or 3 in a small village. I can't stop myself. So but I know the next day I'm going to end up holding a lot of water. Right. I'm going to feel bloated. My joints might ache a little bit whenever I'm in the gym. And so I know going into it, okay, tomorrow's going to suck. I'm probably just going to go for a walk and that will be it. But learning about how those foods impact and affect your body was one of the most important things. And I think just that user education piece probably goes such a long way with a lot of your clients.
Big time.
Now, also, one of the things that stuck with me is whenever you and I were going through that plan, every month I'd come in, take my measurements, and saw just incredible results. I was in shock. While we were bulking, that was...
another different shock.
That was another kind of shock. I think the last few months I was at 4,800 calories, and oh my God, it was just...
It becomes a full-time job.
It was.
I've got several high school football players right now that are juniors, seniors in the area that are trying to, obviously there's going to be starters next year and they want to be a certain size, and it's, to get them to understand the type of calories when you're eating that much is very important.
It was so odd. Like every meal I would be stomach distended and just miserable. But what was crazy is 2 hours later, I was starving, ravenous. And I guess my body was just burning through all of it so fast. But yeah, that was something. And I weigh less now. I'm around 195, 200. I'd like to be 210 or so, but the amount of food that I have to eat just to get there, it's not worth it for me. I know I can if I wanted to, but I just don't really care to. Right,
no. And then long term, your body kind of settles into where it's, it's genetic makeup really is, right? You look at your dad, your grandfather, uncles, brothers, whatever. But the point is that you start looking at a mold. Right. And if you're trying to outpace that mold one way or the other, you got to really start looking at, does my lifestyle support that major change in mold? And by doing that, you can make a determination whether you're, like you say, I don't want to live that life, that's going to take to basically maintain it. And there's just, or as it could be it could be unhealthy, right? And inversely, if somebody needs to really lose a lot of weight, and you go against that mold, there you can start doing some things to be very unhealthy there too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I found kind of my point of homeostasis where I feel strong, I can run, kind of. Not like I used to be able to.
Yeah.
But so anyways. So what is something that you would say you're passionate about?
I'd say my biggest, I'm very fortunate to get to do it every day, is this helping people not necessarily find their purpose. That's not what I would say that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about having them find a direction that brings them out of a dark place. Whatever takes them to get there is, helping them realize that they have a lot of control when they let go of control. And what I mean by that is that a perfect example, I have a lot of females that come to us for fertility. And I'm not treating them for fertility. Understand that. I'm not making them, I myself, Chase Banks is not making them have fixing their body to have a baby. I'm showing them things in their life and some stressors and some other things, sleep habits and all kinds of other things. And nutrition falls into that too. That's going to help their body have less of a strain again. And then they go from being this, desolate, hopeless state to finding out, maybe a couple months later, their body's primed, ready, and all of a sudden, boom, they get pregnant. Hearing their voice, and it's the same thing when I have somebody that reaches a goal of weight loss, fat loss, gets a clean bill of health, whatever it might be, to listen to their voice of hope and appreciation, and then just, they don't have to say anything like thanks to me or not. It's just like just allowing them to basically be in a better place than they were when they first saw me. That's it. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. So for me, it's kind of similar on the leadership and career progression path, and some of the executive coaching that I do, and helping people that, maybe they've been stuck in a manager position for 15 years. They can't figure out what's holding them back. And obviously I'm not doing anything on the medical side.
Yeah.
Now we will have conversations around health and nutrition, because that it all plays a part. When you think about career progression, if you're not sleeping and you're not hydrated, your cognitive effort probably has to be higher to be able to just hold a conversation. So there's challenges there. But the feeling that I get when someone comes back, and the excitement in their voice whenever they're able to accomplish that thing, whatever it was. And it wasn't anything that I did other than just kind of like shining a flashlight. Hey, go down that way.
Yeah.
That'll get you there.
Yeah.
And so it's that feeling of completion and excitement that they have, like they accomplished something. And so being a part of that, while definitely not on the medical side of it, on the coaching and leadership side of it, I can relate, and it's so fulfilling.
Well, and they do it enough times, with something that you showed them, and all of a sudden something they may not be, telling you about other aspects of their life, but they apply what they've learned there into something different. Maybe it's their marriage. And all of a sudden you take a very unhealthy marriage to a very healthy place, and then it just completely changes the network of the home. It could be a wayward kid, or a wayward parent, that they're willing to now, because they're in a better place, either resolve something that they have regret for. And you may never get to see that. But the point is that you were the spark that showed them that they had the capability of doing it.
Yeah, helping them. The flywheel effect comes to mind when people start building that momentum, and it carries over into other aspects of their lives.
Yeah.
It's just huge.
Yeah.
It is.
Cool.
Okay. All right. So last question I've got for you. What is the best piece of advice that you have received as an entrepreneur?
That I've received. I heard and this is hard, for a lot of people to realize, but I heard a quote a long time ago, was "What you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying." And I have literally pieced every bit of that phrase or quote into almost everything that I've done. And like, you'll never see me shout from the mountaintop. Again, you won't see me on social media unless it's a video that I'm doing for education for the office. Nothing against it. It's just, it doesn't do anything for my soul. It doesn't do anything for my heart. So if I'm going to be better for other people, I got to be better here. So, but that quote, being able to hold up to that in everything that I do, you start to see what you can pour into something or someone by doing that. And again, living out those values in that statement, it ends up being something a lot greater than just the words itself. And so it took practice, and it took some faith and some character building in the process, because you do things that are oftentimes like it's the very hard thing to do, and you don't want to do, but you do it anyways, and you get to be the point where there's something good going to come on. It just may not be tomorrow, and then when it continues, you start seeing great things happen. Then it just starts to be like, aha. And then you start doing it just because, you just start helping people in a way that not necessarily they've ever been helped before, and talking to them a different way. And, so it's different.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, brother. I think what you're doing is, again, you go back into the IT industry, kind of where you started, right? And a lot of, especially early on when you were, that was a part of the economy that was just getting going. Right when you started talking about people didn't go to college for it, you would go to these little trade schools.
Yep.
In the very beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now there's big programs and PhD stuff. There's all kinds of stuff out there for it, because that's the way of the world now. Mm-hmm. Where it used to be like a lot of people in that industry might have been a little bit more introverted, right? Because they weren't. Your computer
still are.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, perfect example, like what we're doing here. But the point is like being able to share what you're doing here, what you're personally doing in your own life, like, designing this to crack that shell a little bit, let that diamond come through, because you're creating something, where it's always been here, and you're able to kind of show other people that they have that potential too. And I think that's what's cool about this.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Keep it up, man.
So how do people contact you?
You can get online at www.finish, and that's the numeral 1.net. So that's finish1.net. You can call the office at 832-813-8451. So that's 832-813-8451. Melanie is she's our queen bee.
She's amazing.
She is. There was a lot of companies that would love to rob her from us.
No doubt.
So she's who controls everything in our office. So if she answers the phone, or if she's with a patient, assessing them, or out of the, maybe doing something else, just leave a message. If you call, you can send her an email at info@finish1.net with anything that you have questions about. If you'd like to come see us, or just ask, questions about what services that we have, what we can do for you. But she's more than capable of handling most of the questions. And if it's something more serious, I'll be happy to help out.
Perfect. Thank you so much. An absolute honor to have you come on the show. Thank you,
brother.
Chase.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. That's it for the show. Y'all have a good one.